You are going to die. And when that day comes, when you're staring at the ceiling, gasping for your last breath, the only thing racing through your mind will be this: did I waste my life? Did I throw away my potential? Did I let fear, laziness, and excuses rob me of everything I could have been? You will remember every moment you were too weak to push through, every morning you hit snooze instead of rising like a warrior, every time you let pain defeat you instead of letting it forge you into something unstoppable. And when that moment comes, it will be too late. No more second chances, no more opportunities to change, no more time to build the empire, the physique, the discipline, the life you were meant to have. Because the truth is, the only thing standing between you and the man you could be is your tolerance for suffering. Every great man was willing to endure more pain than the average loser. Every champion embraced suffering while others ran from it. So the question is, will you, or will you die with regret knowing you were too weak to pay the price of greatness? Because that price must be paid, and if you don't pay it now in sweat, blood, and discipline, you will pay it later in shame, failure, and regret. You think life is unfair? You think success is some magical reward given to the lucky ones? No. Success is brutal, it's ruthless, it only bows to those who are willing to break themselves apart and rebuild into something stronger. If you wake up every day looking for an easy way out, you've already lost. Life doesn't care about your excuses, your emotions, or your temporary discomfort. It cares about results, and results are only given to those who are willing to suffer. You want willpower? Then stop waiting to feel like it. Stop waiting for the right moment. The right moment is now, and it always will be now. The weak wait, the strong take action. The problem with most men today is they think pain is something to be avoided. They've been told all their lives that suffering is bad, that discomfort should be minimized, that happiness comes from living an easy, comfortable life. But look around, who are the most miserable people? The ones drowning in comfort, the ones who have never had to fight for anything, the ones who crumble the moment life punches them in the face. Comfort breeds weakness, and weakness leads to a life of regret. You have to understand this. Suffering is the foundation of strength. Without it, you are nothing. Without it, you will never develop the willpower required to achieve anything meaningful. Most people quit the moment things get hard. They start a workout routine, and after a few days of soreness, they stop. They try to build a business, and the first failure sends them running back to mediocrity. They say they want to change, but the second discomfort creeps in, they fold. That's why they stay weak. That's why they never achieve anything. If you only do what's easy, your life will be hard. But if you force yourself to do what's hard, your life will be easy. The pain you feel today is the price for the strength you'll have tomorrow. But most people don't want to pay that price. They want the rewards without the struggle. They want the victory without the fight. And that's why they will never win. Discipline is doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left. That's willpower. That's what separates the winners from the losers. Every single day you have a choice. Either you embrace the suffering or you run from it. And the more you run, the weaker you become. Every time you hit the snooze button, every time you skip the workout, every time you take the easy route, you are programming yourself for failure. You are reinforcing weakness, and weakness compounds over time. One day you wake up and you're 40 years old wondering where it all went wrong. The answer is simple. It went wrong the moment you started avoiding discomfort. You think the men who have conquered life did it because they felt good every day? No. They did it because they forced themselves through pain day after day until they became unbreakable. They suffered when no one was watching. They grinded when every muscle in their body screamed for rest. They kept pushing when their minds begged them to stop. And that's why they are at the top while everyone else is at the bottom. Suffer now so you can live the rest of your life like a king. But if you refuse to suffer now, life will force suffering on you later. And when that day comes, it will be too late. The truth is, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's going to do the work for you. There is no secret hack, no shortcut, no easy way out. It's just you, your willpower, and your ability to endure pain. Every great man understands this. Pain is the gateway to power. The body wants to quit long before the mind does. Your brain will tell you to stop, but that's where the battle begins. The moment your mind screams at you to give up is the moment you must push even harder. That's when you build true willpower. That's when you separate yourself from the rest. It's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everybody would do it. The fact that it's hard is what makes it valuable. If you are waiting for motivation, you are already weak. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind, but discipline is forever. Discipline is waking up and doing what you need to do, even when every cell in your body tells you to stop. Discipline is showing up, grinding, and pushing forward, even when it feels like the world is against you. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. And you do not want to wake up one day full of regret, knowing you had every chance to change, but you were too weak to take it. So I'll ask you again, are you willing to suffer? Are you willing to endure pain? Because if you are, then nothing can stop you. No obstacle, no failure, no setback will ever break you. Willpower is not something you are born with. It is something you forge through suffering. And once you understand that, once you fully embrace it, you will become unstoppable. Now go out there and earn your greatness. There comes a point in every man's life where he has to make a choice: stay weak or suffer his way to greatness. Some men step up, embrace the pain, and build themselves into warriors. Others run, hide, and fade into a life of mediocrity. The difference between them isn't intelligence, luck, or talent. It's willpower, the ability to suffer through the struggle without breaking. Every great man in history has had to make that choice. And the ones who chose suffering became legends. Because suffering is the price you pay for strength. It's not a punishment, it's a test. And most people fail. Take a look at the man who refused to fail, David Goggins. This was a man who had every excuse in the world to quit. Fat, out of shape, miserable. He could have accepted the life he had, blamed his past, and lived as a loser. But he didn't. He made a choice to suffer, to break himself down completely and rebuild into something unstoppable. He forced himself to run when his lungs burned, to train when his body begged him to stop. He shattered the limits his mind had placed on him. Not because it was easy, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. He understood that pain was the only path to strength. That's what makes the difference. That's what separates warriors from the weak. Most people don't get this. They think the struggle is unfair. They complain that life is too hard. But fairness has nothing to do with it. Life doesn't reward the ones who cry about their problems. It rewards the ones who fight through them. Nobody cares about your excuses. The world only cares about results. You either become the man who pushes through the suffering, or you become the man who gets left behind. That's the choice. And every single day you make that choice through your actions. Do you wake up early and attack the day, or do you stay in bed like a coward? Do you push yourself beyond your limits, or do you stop when it gets hard? Do you force yourself into discomfort, or do you look for an easy way out? Suffering is not the enemy, weakness is. Weakness is what keeps men trapped in a life they hate. It's what keeps them poor, unfit, and powerless. And the only way to kill weakness is through suffering. You think the greatest men in history got there by avoiding pain? No, they embraced it, they thrived in it, they became addicted to it. The more you suffer, the stronger you get. That's the secret nobody wants to hear, because it means there's no shortcuts. It means you have to go through hell to get what you want. And most people don't have the willpower to handle that truth. But you're not most people. You have the power to make that choice right now. To stop running from pain, to stop looking for an easier way, to finally step up and take control of your destiny. Look around you. Look at all the men who took the easy road. They are everywhere, slouched over, lifeless, beaten by a world they refuse to fight against. Do you want to be like them? Or do you want to be something more? The path to greatness is right in front of you, but it's covered in fire, pain, and suffering. And the only way to the other side is to walk straight through it. Most men won't, but you can. You have to understand this. Every moment of suffering you endure is a deposit into your future. Every drop of sweat, every ounce of pain, every second of struggle is building something inside you. It's forging an unbreakable will. It's crafting the kind of man who can withstand anything life throws at him. Pain is temporary, but quitting lasts forever. That's why you must push through, even when it feels impossible, even when your body screams for rest, even when your mind begs you to stop. Because every time you endure, every time you refuse to break, you become stronger. You move closer to the man you were meant to be. People will look at you and wonder how you did it. They'll think you were gifted, that you had some advantage they didn't. But they won't see the nights you spent grinding when they were sleeping. They won't see the sacrifices you made, the pain you endured, the times you kept going when every part of you wanted to quit. And that's the difference. That's why you'll win, and they won't. Because you made the choice to suffer. You chose to embrace the hardship, to welcome the struggle, to refuse to be anything less than great. And that choice will set you apart from everyone else. So ask yourself right now, what kind of man are you going to be? The kind who complains, who looks for the easy way, who accepts weakness as his fate? Or the kind who stands up, grits his teeth, and forces himself to suffer because he knows that's the only way to win? The answer is in your hands. And if you choose pain, if you choose struggle, if you choose to suffer for your dreams, then nothing, absolutely nothing can stop you. Now go out there and prove it. The truth about suffering is that most men will never embrace it. Not because they can't, but because they are mentally weak. They have been programmed to believe that struggle is something to avoid, that pain is something to escape from. Society has trained them to seek comfort, to settle for mediocrity, to live a life of quiet desperation, never pushing beyond their limits, and that is exactly why they will never be great. Because the moment a man runs from discomfort, he signs his own death warrant. He has already lost. You see it everywhere. Men who are stuck in jobs they hate, bodies they despise, relationships that drain them. They complain, they make excuses, but they never change. Why? Because change requires suffering. It requires doing things you don't want to do, waking up when you don't feel like it, grinding when every fiber of your being wants to quit. And that is where most men break. Not because they aren't capable, but because they have convinced themselves that suffering is unnatural, that life is supposed to be easy. But nothing in this world is easy. Everything you want is on the other side of pain. If you refuse to endure that pain, you will stay exactly where you are, weak, powerless, and forgotten. This is why the majority of men will die without ever reaching their potential. They were given the same 24 hours as everyone else, the same opportunities, the same chances, but they lacked the willpower to suffer through the process. They wanted results without sacrifice, rewards without effort, victory without battle. That is not how life works. The universe does not reward the lazy, it rewards the relentless. And if you want to rise above the weak, you must be willing to do what they won't. Embrace the suffering that they fear. Fear is what holds most men back. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of pain. But fear is nothing more than an illusion. It is a mental barrier designed to keep you weak. And the only way to destroy it is through action. Every time you push through discomfort, every time you force yourself to keep going when you want to stop, you are killing that fear. You are training your mind to become stronger, harder, more unbreakable. Pain is the forge where warriors are made. If you refuse to step into the fire, you will never be anything more than average. But here's the brutal reality. Most men don't actually want to be great. They say they do. They talk about success, about discipline, about becoming the best version of themselves. But when it's time to suffer, when it's time to endure the sacrifice, they crumble. They choose comfort over greatness. They choose distraction over discipline. And then they wonder why their lives never change. You either suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One of them is temporary. The other will haunt you for the rest of your life. There is no easy way out, no secret formula, no shortcut. The only way to win in this world is through suffering, through forcing yourself to do what is necessary, even when every part of you wants to quit, through enduring the pain, the struggle, the endless battles until you become something unbreakable. That is the difference between those who succeed and those who fail. The ones who win are the ones who refuse to give up, the ones who push through the suffering no matter what. And here's the best part. Once you embrace suffering, once you condition your mind to thrive in pain, nothing can stop you. The obstacles that break other men will mean nothing to you. The challenges that make them quit will only make you stronger. You will become the man who can walk through fire and come out untouched. And when the weak men of the world look at you, they will not understand. They will wonder how you did it, how you became so disciplined, so powerful, so untouchable. But they will never know, because they never made the choice. They never forced themselves to suffer. So ask yourself right now, are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to embrace the suffering that will make you great? Or will you be like the rest, comfortable, weak, forgettable? The choice is yours. But remember this, every second you waste avoiding suffering is a second you could have spent becoming stronger. Time is running out. Make the right choice. The difference between the winners and the losers in this world is simple. One group is willing to suffer and the other isn't. That's it. That's the whole game. You look at the strongest men, the most disciplined warriors, the most powerful individuals in history, and they all share one trait. They endured suffering while others ran from it. They didn't pray for comfort. They didn't sit around waiting for motivation. They forced themselves through the fire again and again until their minds became steel. And that is why they stand at the top, while the weak waste their days making excuses. The problem is, most people see suffering as something negative. They think pain is something to be avoided, something unfair, something that life shouldn't have given them. But they don't understand. Suffering is not a punishment. It is a gift. It is the very thing that will forge you into the man you are supposed to become. The struggle is where strength is created. Without it, you stay weak. Without it, you remain just another average person who talks about success but never earns it. The world is full of these men. Guys who spend years saying they'll change, that they'll start grinding, that they'll transform their bodies, their finances, their mentality, but they never do because they refuse to suffer. And that's why so few people ever make it, because they are terrified of discomfort. They want the rewards without the sacrifice. They want the six-pack without the brutal workouts. They want wealth without the sleepless nights of grinding. They want discipline without ever being forced to struggle through exhaustion. It doesn't work that way. Suffering is the entry fee for greatness. If you're not willing to pay it, you will never be great. It's that simple. The moment you stop avoiding suffering and start embracing it, you unlock an entirely new level of power, because when you train yourself to be comfortable in discomfort, nothing can break you. The cold, the hunger, the fatigue, the failures, none of it will stop you. Most men crumble when things get hard. They fall apart the second life doesn't go their way. But the ones who are truly dangerous, the ones who succeed at everything they do, are the ones who refuse to quit. The ones who wake up tired and still go to the gym. The ones who feel like quitting but force themselves to keep going. The ones who suffer and instead of complaining, use that pain as fuel to push harder. Think about it. Every moment of suffering you endure is making you stronger than the man who quit. Every rep at the gym when you're exhausted is building a body that weak men will envy. Every extra hour of work when others have stopped is setting you apart from those who will never escape mediocrity. Pain is the currency of success. You either pay up now or you spend your life broke, mentally, physically, and financially. The reality is, most men will never experience what it feels like to be truly powerful. They will never know what it means to look in the mirror and see a warrior staring back, because they have never suffered enough to become one. They have spent their lives hiding from the very thing that would have transformed them. And that is why they stay weak, they stay stuck, they stay trapped in a cycle of laziness, procrastination, and regret, watching from the sidelines as real men rise above them. But that doesn't have to be you. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can continue doing what you've always done, avoiding suffering, chasing comfort, making excuses, or you can make the decision to suffer on purpose, to wake up earlier, train harder, work longer, to do what weak men won't. Because the second you make that choice, your entire life changes. Suddenly, the things that used to seem impossible become routine. The discipline you once lacked becomes effortless. You become the type of man who doesn't need motivation, who doesn't need external validation, who doesn't care what anyone thinks, because you have built yourself through suffering, and you know that no one can take that away from you. Most people will read this and nod their heads, agreeing with every word, but then go right back to their old habits. They will tell themselves that tomorrow they will start, that next week they will change, but next week turns into next year, and before they know it, they've wasted a lifetime avoiding the very thing that would have saved them. There is no tomorrow. There is only now. If you don't decide today, you never will. So ask yourself, are you really willing to do what it takes? Not just when it's easy, not just when you feel like it, but every single day, even when it hurts. Because if you are, nothing can stop you. No challenge will be too great, no obstacle too difficult. You will become the man that others fear, the man who thrives in the suffering that destroys the weak. And when you reach that level, when you have fully embraced the pain and turned it into power, you will understand why the greats live by one rule. The more you suffer, the stronger you become. At the end of the day, everything in your life comes down to one decision. Will you suffer for greatness, or will you take the easy way out and remain weak? That's it. That's the defining factor between the men who conquer life and the ones who spend their days making excuses, blaming their circumstances and decisions. That's where you make the mistake of blaming your circumstances and watching from the sidelines. The truth is brutal, but it's simple. Every great man has suffered more than you can imagine, and every weak man has avoided suffering like a disease. So the question is, which one are you going to be? Most people spend their entire lives lying to themselves. They say they want success, but when they're faced with the choice between suffering and comfort, they pick comfort every single time. They want to be in shape, but they skip workouts because they're tired. They want money, but they waste time scrolling on their phone instead of working. They say they want to be disciplined, but when it gets difficult, they quit. And then they wonder why they're stuck. The world doesn't reward intentions. It rewards results. Nobody cares what you wanted to do. Nobody respects what you almost accomplished. You either did it or you didn't. You either forced yourself through the suffering or you gave up like everybody else. But the real tragedy, most people never realize how powerful they could have been because they never pushed themselves hard enough to find out. They never suffered enough to unlock that version of themselves. Imagine if you had done the hard thing every time it was presented to you. Imagine if instead of quitting, you had forced yourself to keep going. Where would you be right now? What kind of man would you have become? The life you want exists, but it's on the other side of suffering. And the only way to get there is to embrace it fully, without hesitation, without fear, without excuse. Understand this: pain is not your enemy. Pain is your greatest ally. Every moment of suffering is sharpening you, hardening you, making you stronger. While the rest of the world complains about how hard life is, you need to smile because you know something they don't. You know that the suffering is turning you into something unstoppable. Most men will never understand this. They think happiness comes from avoiding pain. That's why they seek distractions, entertainment, cheap dopamine, anything to numb the fact that they are weak. But real happiness comes from proving to yourself that you are a warrior, that you can endure anything, that nothing can break you. And once you reach that level, life becomes simple. No more hesitation, no more doubt, no more wasted time. You wake up and do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. You stop looking for motivation because you don't need it. You don't complain, you don't make excuses, you don't seek sympathy, because you have trained yourself to thrive in the suffering that destroys other men. You have built a mind that is unbreakable. Most people will never experience that. They will stay trapped in their own weakness, waiting for some magical moment when it all becomes easy, but that moment never comes, and deep down they know it. That's why so many men walk around miserable, drowning in regret, because they know they should have done more. There is no worse pain than knowing you could have been great, but you were too weak to suffer for it. That's what haunts people at the end of their lives. Not the failures, not the losses, but the fact that they never even tried hard enough to find out what they were capable of. You are at a crossroads right now. You can walk away, ignore this, go back to your comfortable little life, and keep telling yourself that one day you'll change. Or you can make the decision right here, right now, that you will suffer on purpose, that you will wake up earlier, train harder, work longer, that you will chase discomfort, that you will stop negotiating with yourself, that you will become the man who does what weak men won't, that you will suffer more than anybody else so that one day you will stand at the top while they stay exactly where they are. But understand this: if you don't do it now, you never will. You will never feel ready. You will never feel like starting. That's why weak men never do. The difference between winners and losers is that winners act in spite of their feelings. They suffer because they know suffering leads to power. They don't wait for motivation, they create discipline. They don't wait for permission, they take action. So what are you going to do? Are you going to step up, suffer, and take what's yours? Or are you going to keep lying to yourself, keep hiding from discomfort, keep pretending that one day it'll be easier? Because I promise you, it won't. The only thing that changes is whether you step up now or waste another year doing nothing. This is it. There is no later. There is no next time. There is only right now. And if you don't choose suffering, you're choosing weakness. If you don't choose discipline, you're choosing failure. If you don't choose to become the strongest version of yourself, you are choosing to remain weak. The choice is yours. But just remember, every second you hesitate, someone else is out there suffering for the life you say you want. And when the time comes, he will be the one standing on top. Not you.